Should I wear pants?
I thought about wearing pants. I'll get to it. Maybe you should put socks on.
See my feet.
I put socks on for this.
Yeah, I can't have my feet
Have
out.
some, like, dignity.
I can't have my feet out.
Okay, no. It's fine, dude.
No, bro,
Just
I
don't
need
show-
I can't even
socks.
see your feet.
Just keep them down
No,
there.
but who knows when I get excited?
Hello, and welcome back to the Funliner Podcast.
Okay, you got it. That's the intro. Hello, guys. It's been a fat minute since we've done a podcast.
Oh
I
my
think
goodness.
the last one we did was maybe like 3 years ago.
Yes.
We started this channel doing podcasts. We only made it like 4 episodes.
Yeah, I was about to say, what's the last one?
I
Was
think
it
we did one
Brandon
with John
Olander?
Mayer.
Have
We know
you
we did.
done a podcast before?
Yes. Man. No, great. We did like 3 podcasts. We had John Meehan on.
Yes.
We had
Yeah.
Brandon Olander on. But yeah,
Oh,
anyways,
cool.
we are back to do some podcasts because we just like, now we all live together. Okay, anyways, by the way, this is Grayton, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Grayton Hodge, legend. And obviously,
Yeah.
if you're a drum corps fan, then you might know him from 2019 Blue Devils and 2022 Blue Devils. And he was the center marimba. He also marched MCM when they won. He's done everything. But he is a super talented, amazing guy. And he is here and he lives with us. But you two live together already in Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they went to Berkeley together in Boston, and they live together. So
That was
Yeah.
fun and cold.
Yeah, that was rough. I mean, Alan and I have known each other for
Since 2017.
That's
Because
right.
we marched
how many,
coats.
8 years. Me,
Yeah.
you, and Malik. Like,
Yes, yeah.
We've known each other since 17.
Yeah,
I
forever.
always
But-
forget that y'all marched together in 17.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
That was a wild year.
But no, this is our 3rd year living together now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So they both moved out to LA after graduating from Berkeley. And so now we all live in the same house, and we all teach at Arcadia High School together. So we're all kind of like in the air. But anyways, we've been having, all these conversations just like living together.
Casually.
And we're like,
Yeah.
let's just like put it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I see the comments of you guys asking for the podcast to come back. So we just wanted the yap for a bit, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, you guys marched together in 17. And you guys, I remember you telling me a little bit about that season, but
It's the curse. The curse of winning for your first time.
The first place to 5th place curse.
Fifth place
Because I
curse.
got that. Well, I didn't march 16 Bluecoats, but in 17 we won with Mystique, and then the next year we got 5th.
Wow.
And at Bluecoats, y'all won, and then when I marched Bluecoats,
so you were
I marched the
double
5th place year.
cursed.
Yeah. So
wow, it really is a 1st to 5th pipeline.
Yeah, it just is so. I think, like, there's not many corps that can do that consistent winning thing, and Crown was an example of that too. 2013 and 2014,
2014. I put that in the
Phantom,
video.
2000. They probably had the roughest one because they went from 1st to 9th.
1st to 9th is really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can do. I just don't know how that happens. But like,
Gosh, like so many people left in 2016 from 2017, and a whole new wave of people came, and I think there was just like a lot of growing pains. Like,
but
learning
why
how
would
to do
people
drum
leave
corps.
Bluecoats in 16?
at Bluecoats,
We had so many age outs in 2016.
Oh, okay, so
In
you're
the
talking about
horn
just
line
straight up ages.
specifically, like there was like over 60.
Okay, so just you guys marched together in 17. That was your first year of drum corps. Like,
that was my 2nd year of drum corps.
Wait.
Because I did Southwind in
Southwind.
2016.
Oh my God. Okay, so okay,
Yeah.
it's your 2nd year of drum corps, but you guys in 17, was that season like a fun season? Because I know that you came off 16 you came off 16, you and Malik, of this high of like a revolutionary show, and then 17, it was so ambitious, just like conceptually, production wise, the most insane props, and like there was like a lot of expectation for the corps. So like for you guys, how was that season, like from the beginning in the conceptual stage, early season, to like the end when it's fully realized and you kind of had that result?
You go first.
I mean, I will have a much different experience than you because that was your 3rd year at Bluecoats.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that season at Bluecoats was my first year with like a big drum corps, like big world class,
Yeah.
like top 5,
And the percussion was
drum
insane
corps
that year.
Like incredible percussion section. That 2017 Bluecoats percussion section was like some of the hardest music I think Bluecoats percussion has ever played, and like so well executed, especially considering the front ensemble setup and a lot of the
Oh,
Dim-
how was the
like visual dimension.
split?
Yeah, it was like the pod thing again, because like 16 was the first year they did the pods. Like, that's one person
right.
playing marimba and vibraphone.
They had in-ears. to communicate.
Yeah.
Like it was
yeah,
so,
like I wore in-ears for that
I
show.
remember that
like,
being controversial.
Yeah.
That,
Oh, yeah.
that the pit had in-ears.
There's
Like,
like
what
the
is your take
first-
on the pit using in-ears? Because a part of like marching band and like drum corps is like you have to listen to each other and fight the distance and time. So what's your take on that?
I mean, I don't like it, and I think the designers, realized that like, oh, maybe this isn't a great idea actually, because like they went back, like they did it in 16, did it in 17, and then since 2018, like they went back to like a more traditional front ensemble setup. It's just not really worth the hassle.
Did it make it easier?
No.
So
not at
it
all.
didn't give you an advantage.
I mean, it did make it easier, but it was just so different. I wouldn't say it made it like harder necessarily. It was just kind of weird and like, I don't know. Again, that was my first time being, that was my second year being in like a big, like really good, like legit front ensemble like that.
Faust.
So I don't know. Yeah, like
Uto brothers.
they were like legendary
they're
people,
so good.
players in that group. But I don't know. I'm definitely an advocate for like just the OG front ensemble setup, front of the field, straight line. Just that's been the standard for like a reason,
Yeah.
So anyways, you're saying so the experience was different. You were in a weird setup for the front ensemble. But
and like I had a great time, like because I had a lot of friends from Mystique, and like that was one of the reasons I wanted to do Bluecoats, just because I had done a year of Mystique at that point, like that a huge number of the people from Mystique had done Bluecoats, so they were all encouraging me to go to Bluecoats, and then the front ensemble coordinator at Bluecoats was my percussion teacher from like 6th grade through high school. Like he taught me how to hold drumsticks and like taught me how to hold mallets.
Oh, wow.
So he was, I just wanted to keep learning from him and like wanted to be with him more. So that was another huge factor. But I had a good time. I mean, it was just so cool to experience. And like coming off of 2016 and getting to be around that, like that was, the Bluecoats were just kind of different. Like after 16, like getting their first championship, like there was just an energy that was like that group had that like I never experienced. I thought was super cool. And it was just awesome. It was all new to me. Like I didn't know a ton about drum corps. I still feel like I don't know a ton about drum corps, but
You're one of those people that like that just did drum corps,
like
wasn't like a super fan.
Yeah,
going
I don't know.
into
Like
it.
I've just like found myself doing it, and I don't know. Like
It's so different from like our experience.
I didn't know what drum corps was until like going into my freshman year of high school. Like and then that next summer, like I marched a year with Southwind, and then
That's crazy.
went straight, went to Mystique from that just because of an instructor at Southwind. Like going to Mystique, had no idea what that was or what indoor was. Like I was doing Mystique and didn't like know what like a name of another group because I didn't even know what the activity was.
Yeah,
But-
I would say you're on that end of the spectrum, and I'm like in the middle of the spectrum of like I was a
And I'm
fan
on
before, and then you're on the
extreme.
far side because I was kind of like you when I went into drum corps. I was like a huge fan of the Blue Devils already. I marched Pacific Crest my rookie year, but I was a huge fan of the Blue Devils already, and I like knew that I liked like Blue Devils, Carolina Crown, like all the top corps. But when I was competing with Pacific Crest, I was like, I had no idea like any other corps. Like I was like, is Jersey Surf our competitors? Is like Mandarins our competitors? I had no idea like anything below like even the top 6. I just had no idea anything about the corps. So I learned a lot while I started doing drum corps. But you were like a fan.
I was like a legacy child. Like
That's
my
right.
dad marched Spirit 78, 79.
That's
and
crazy.
Like when I was a kid driving around in his truck just to and from places, he had so many CDs of like, because back then they used to make so many CDs of drum corps. Like they would get in an arc and they would record the whole show and they would print it on CDs and they would sell it at the merch stands and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore just because like copyright laws have changed so much and they don't have the same structures back then. But no, like 1984 Blue Devils was like on repeat, like in the car, and like these old school like cadets shows. And so I, as a kid, was immediately thrown into that world of marching band. My dad was a band director as well. And I went to my first drum corps show before like my 6th grade. Like it was like 2011 for me. And that's when I hadn't even started playing trumpet yet.
Yeah.
And I saw Into the Looking Glass, right? No,
Through
2000,
a Glass Darkly.
Through the
wait, what are you talking about?
Wait, I'm talking about
What year?
this is 2011. Why am I blanking on the
2011
name?
is House is Not a Home is
Whoa,
wow.
What's that show called? I don't know. 2010 was
2010 is Through a Glass Darkly, and then
Yeah,
2011 is, oh my gosh, because 2012 is Cabaret Voltaire. I don't like this show. That's why. 2011 they played House is Not a Home by Luther Vandross, and then the show title was called.
I don't know what it's called.
Holy moly, we're gonna get roasted by every single like Blue Devil.
I don't know anything about
Yeah.
anything. Like,
Anyway,
So
you saw that show.
they open with that solo, and that's also in the closer, and that was the first like Blue Devil trumpet soloist I saw, and I was like, I manifested it. I was like, that's what I want to do. Like when I was in 6th grade, and I was actually on the. I thought I was gonna be a percussionist because my brother and my dad played snare. And
That's
so
so
I was like,
crazy.
well, I'm gonna play snare too because it's so cool and I love snare. But when I saw drum corps in 2011, I also went to WGI in 2011 and saw MCM.
yeah. See, you have some experiences that I'm jealous
And
of.
I bought a
Yeah.
pad and sticks at WGI.
I
and
cannot
was like,
imagine you playing any percussion. That does not make sense in my
You've been
brain.
great. There's a universe where you're playing marimba and I play trumpet somewhere out there. You know, like
Oh no way!
I would have loved to see you
the
play
shortest
snare.
trumpet soloist.
Right, and the biggest marimba player.
Okay, so anyways, back to what I was saying was 2017 for you,
Yeah.
right? So 2016 you come off of a fun season, a good season.
2016 was amazing. Yeah, it was awesome. Like honestly, looking back of the 6 years, well, I guess 5 because COVID wiped away my age out. But the 5 years, so I did 3 years at Coates, 2 at Devils. Of all those 5 horn lines, I think 16 was probably my favorite horn line to be in, which is saying a lot because 2019 was also an excellent year to be in that horn line. But man, playing with guys like Ben Gunnarsson and Vince and Dan and there's just so many, like Ryan Greco. There's just so many guys. Malik too. Malik was a rookie, but he was like still on the lead section. He was like lower split lead that year. It was so stacked. Those guys were just so competitive and they just cared so deeply about brass in a way that I hadn't experienced in other years, even at Bluecoats. And I just looked up to them so much, and they're part of the reason why I even came back. Because in 2015, I had a rough year, my rookie year at Bluecoats. Like I got hurt, and I was out because like my high school.
You're one of
ended.
those kids that had to sit out.
I was about to say.
I was one of those kids,
Oh
yeah,
my
on the
God,
sideline
bro,
with
that's
like
embarrassing.
crutches, and there's like there's an alternate in your spot learning your show, waiting for you to like get hurt,
that'd be so sad.
and then boom, they pop in and they're doing real good, and you're like, I'm gonna go home. I really thought I was gonna go home in 2015. I was really nervous, but I got better, and they trusted me. The staff did. Shout out to Derek. And when I got back in there, I hustled and like earned my spot back. But no, like after that season, like looking back, it was all such a blur. Like because I was 15 years old when I started at Bluecoats, and it was just the hardest thing I'd ever done in my entire life, and that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
There wasn't like a moment of like, yay. It was constantly just like me trying to not necessarily survive, but like to get through it without like hurting my knee even further, because my knee got really messed up. I had to go to the hospital and get an ultrasound on my leg. Like it was a whole thing. And because of that, I was like not sure I wanted to go back and do that again, because it was really hard on me because I wasn't as prepared. It definitely like it came out of nowhere. I'd never done an activity that just demanding before. And 2015 Kinetic Noise was such a challenging show, and my drill specifically was just punishing. I don't know what it was. I was always on like the outsides of forms, and like my jazz run technique was horrible. And
still is, but right.
Still is. They had to work on me a lot, and it was rough. So those guys, after post 15, Ben specifically, I remember him being like, "Man, are you coming back? Like, we really need you. We really want you to come back." And I was like, "Really?
Oh, Ben."
Me?" I had no idea, like, because I was kind of quiet in 15, because you're a rookie, it's your first year, and you're literally 15 years old, and you're with all these so amazing, talented kids that like.
You quiet?
Yeah, I was quiet.
Can
you
imagine.
I don't know what that's like.
I don't know what that. It's very rare.
Your ears were blessed when I was quiet.
Wow.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
But so
So you guys know, so we all live together, and of the words that are spoken in this house, I'd say Alan
holds
probably
about
takes up
95%?
95%, 95% of the words spoken in this house, like in general.
And then like Everett's 4, and then like me and Elsa are like 1%.
It's real quiet when I'm not here, and it's sad. Okay.
Alan will literally start a conversation like in the kitchen back here, and I'll be listening for like 20 minutes, and then eventually I walk into my room and he's just still going, just by himself.
I'll start following. I'm like, "Hey man."
But okay, so they asked you, they were the reason you came back in 16.
Yes.
And then in 17.
And then they left.
And then they left in 17.
I mean, it's not that dramatic, but like, there were still great people who were left that didn't age out in 16. But, going back on what you said about 17, about it being like an incredibly ambitious show, that's so true. And I think part of the reason why that core just struggled, because there was a lot of like new folks who hadn't marched at that level. And the way 17 was designed from like a drill standpoint, but also from like a musical demand standpoint, it was like definitely like the most challenging show of my drum corps career by far. And I was like, 3 years into Bluecoats, like I was strong at that point. Like my technique was mostly figured out, maybe not from an aesthetic place, but definitely from like a strength place. And, like I was like kind of in like a prime in a way. And it was still like looking back, oh my gosh, I've never worked harder. I've never worked harder.
I remember in early season, like before the first show at the Blue Devils in 17. So 17, we're kind of like feeling ourselves. We're like, this show is really cool. We're starting to get the idea that this year is going to be special for the Blue Devils. And I remember seeing like a leaked video of you guys and seeing a leaked picture of the props. And we were like, what? 17, if you guys have not watched 17, go watch it. But the props in that show are insane. It's the biggest prop. It's like the prop. Yeah. It's one giant prop down the 50.
Tons of pieces.
It's like probably the biggest like prop I've ever seen.
It was insane.
I bet it's the biggest one in DCI.
Yeah. And so I remember seeing a picture of that. I'm like, yo, Bluecoats are going for it this year. I was like, this is crazy. Because, the year before, I feel like we're the biggest props the drum corps has ever seen. With the ramps, right?
Yes.
But then in 17, with this freaking
they're
thing
like,
down
the ramps
middle,
worked. Let's create an even bigger prop that's
2-level stage across the entire field.
It was so ambitious.
It was wild.
And like, the Blue Coat mindset is like, let's from a member standpoint, it's like, okay.
So like was that like
a
nightmare then to deal with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I didn't even like deal with the props, but just like watching, I was like,
I remember after shows in 17, I would see the swarm of Bluecoats people just taking down all of these levels and props and getting them out and putting them away into the truck. I was like, dang, I'm not jealous of that.
I'm not even kidding. There was like a mini strike at Bluecoats, like seriously,
a worker strike.
They had to wear hard hats.
That was the first year, right? Or did they wear? I think that was the first year.
So 16, we didn't wear hard hats, but we probably should have.
17, though,
and
I remember
17,
seeing
it was like, okay, like if we're not gonna have like
these
a
are
prop crew, there's too many parts here.
And now they still do it. It's a thing. Like hard hats, Bluecoats prop team. It's a thing now.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard adjustment for that drum corps, and we're already like going through so much, just trying to get through that show, and then post and pre-show having to work on those props was so exhausting. It's eating into your EPL time, which is pack load, by the way, just your free time.
Yeah,
and like those guys were getting up super early, cutting into their sleep time.
You weren't on the crew.
I was on field lining crew, which was also not great. But
you would rather do field dining than prop, no?
Yeah, I was on the prop crew in 2016, And I was actually in charge of all the mics, as ironic as that is.
Would you look at that?
Yeah. And that was before I even wanted to be an engineer.
It's ironic because Alan is an audio engineer now.
Yeah.
That's what he went to school for. Anyways, continue.
And so, I actually broke my toe on that prop because we would have to lift them. Remember every time we had to lift them up?
I think I also broke my toe at Bluecoats.
Yeah.
I think we share that experience.
I think that's a common experience.
I dropped a gong on my toe.
Okay, that sounds like a
fully,
you thing.
That could happen anywhere.
No, yeah, I know, but whatever. Okay, never mind.
But no, yeah, the props were a thing, and just like the logistics and the structure of it, it was very much like all right, we got these props, now let's try and figure out how to like figure it out. And we had to time it. We had days of rehearsal of like figuring out the best way from the tunnel to like get it on field and cut down time. Like we would rehearse so much just trying to get props on and off the field so that we weren't penalized for time infringements. And it was huge. It was a huge undertaking. And so, and it'd be one thing if like the props were hard, but the show was so hard. Like the closer in 2017 is an example. I wasn't marching because I had like a solo in the front. but every time I turn around, like it's just like this wave of sprinting brass players and the tubas even, because some of them they start on because a tuba feature and they start on top of the prop and they have to literally jazz run down the ramp
like
and you
can
hear their feet go go go. Like literally it's the most insane thing I think I've ever seen from like a physical prowess standpoint.
I remember it's some point, I don't know, whenever we like finished the closer or something, because I was also just like standing down at the front and watching the horn line like sprint for the last like 2 minutes of the show, or like running the whole time. And I was like, I was so happy to be doing what I was doing, just standing there, but like it was insane. That show was that was a hard show. Yeah. Like every section, everything about it. That was a hard show, but it was a lot of fun. I had a great time.
Oh, I grew a lot as a performer and just as a person. But
and then you left.
And then like halfway through that season, because think about Blue Devils 2017. Was like such a like beautiful, entertaining. More importantly, just such an entertaining show. And I remember sometimes during like TOC shows, you're able to kind of squeeze in and watch other drum corps.
Back in the day, there was a thing called Tour of Champions shows. It was like kind of.
They don't have it anymore.
Are they not a thing anymore?
No, TOC's gone. TOC was like a exclusive show where only like the historically best corps would compete. Like it's like the top 7 or 8 groups would compete. So, and it's like it was kind of, they got rid of it because it was kind of like exclusive in a bad way, but they would have the top 7 show group corps like have a show across the country, and each corps would perform in each of the slots. So each corps would have to go on first, and then each corps would get to go on last. And so I remember when I was watching BD, we had shows where we went on first.
Yeah,
and it was like 3 p.m.
It was like
on
the only show in the season where we went early.
Like,
and then so you're saying that when you had those shows where you went on early.
Yeah, because we went on early, and then Malik and I both we like, I guess we didn't really sneak in like that. If they see that you're in a drum corps, they'll usually, well, back then, don't try and do this if now you might get in trouble. But we went into Vanderbilt and saw the Blue Devils perform, and this was like mid-season, like it was still, but you guys were still you were undefeated. You were really, really good that year. Yeah. And Malik and I at first we were kind of like upset because prior to watching the show. Sorry, let me be clear. During the beginning of the season, when we saw like clips of the Blue Devils, we're like, man, they're not doing half the stuff we're doing. Come on, man, like we're not getting credit for all the hard work we're doing here at Bluecoats. And that was definitely like the mentality, because that show was so intense. And if it was like really, really clean, then we would have gotten credit. But that's the problem, is we weren't clean because that show was so hard. We weren't as clean as we could have been. And but Blue Devils, in 17. I mean, I know I've heard you talk about it, how it was like one of the easier shows that you've had.
No, the 2017, especially after coming off the 2016 Blue Devils, which is a hard show. 2017 was a walk in the park.
Yeah.
It was not, it was physically not demanding. Well, I think there were moments, but like it was paced out so well. And the entire ballad, yes, we are just walking around. It's true. We are walking around, but it was paced out in a very good way that allowed us to look like we were doing really hard things. And there were, that was a good core, okay? There was difficult things that we did, but it was a very well paced out show.
Yeah, you guys were executing your show perfectly. That's the difference, really. And you got credit for everything you did. And we had issues on the execution front. But when we finally got to the point where we saw it live, Malik and I both looked at each other and we were like, I get it. Like, I get it now. Like, I finally understand that you don't have to just, like, do the hardest show in the world and make it be as good as you can and try and get credit. Or you could just make, like, the most beautifully crafted, like, the flow of 2017 from, like, just from a design standpoint, but also the attitude and the professionalism and the music of 2017, and just seeing that being executed in that way was foreign to me, but I got it when I saw it live, and I understood why we were getting beat by them. You know? And it kind of convinced Malik and I to maybe kind of consider, like, what if maybe we auditioned?
Well, that's why you left, but why did you go to BD?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same for me. Like when I was at Southwind in 2016, we had a show. We did like a week of tour. Like we didn't do anything, but we did the Southern Mississippi show that Blue Devils does every year, and we like performed during the day, whatever, and I was like going back in to like watch the rest of the groups, and I had wanted to see Blue Devils because I had like heard about Blue Devils. I was like, oh, they're like the best or whatever, but I didn't really know anything. But I wanted to see them, so I was like walking back towards the stadium, and I saw their front ensemble warming up, like off in the distance. No one was in the lot. Yeah. They were just off, like in the dark. It was just them over there, and I was like, who is that? Like, what is that? So I walked over, and it was BD, and I just sat there and
what year?
2016.
Oh, 16.
So I just sat there and watched their warm-up for a minute, and I just thought it was so cool that they were just off in their own world, like nobody watching them. They're just doing it for themselves, like just warming up, hanging out, whatever. So I watched them for a minute. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then they played their Etude Vespertine, which is like a pretty standard Blue Devils like warm-up Etude. Like I played that. We played it like every year I was at Blue Devils. But I watched them play that, and then I watched them play a chunk of the ballad from 2016, and I was like, this is like beautiful. I would love to play this. I was like, okay, let me go inside. So I went into the stadium and watched the show. I was sitting right down like one of the first few rows on the 50 and just watched 2016. And that was like towards the end of the season, you know. And I just watched that show, and I was like, this is insane. Like, this is so cool. Like, I had never seen anything like that live. Like, I was like, this is cool. So then I was like on the bus that night on our way to wherever we were going next, like looking up like bluedevils.com or whatever, just like trying to like learn about it and see what they're about. But then, you know, blah, blah, blah. That summer ends, and I go back to school, and I go back to like my percussion director from my high school, who's a Bluecoats coordinator. And, you know, I had been talking to him about wanting to do Bluecoats. So I go and, you know, I marched that summer at Bluecoats. This is all during my first year of Mystique as well. So I had all that influence as well to like push me towards Bluecoats.
Yeah.
But I always kind of had BD in the back of my mind, just like, there's something about them.
I kind of did too.
Yeah, I was like, there's something about them that's kind of like mysterious, and like they just seem kind of exclusive and kind of cool. And I was like, I don't know, they just seem kind of like
so many free days.
Yeah,
I didn't
especially around that time. No, literally. But so whatever. I do Bluecoats in 2017, and then I remember one of the first moments where I was like, oh, okay. It was in Atlanta. we were pushing onto the field, or like we were pushing to the field, like down like a sidewalk or something.
Yeah.
And I saw somewhere down on like a field down below us, like kind of off in the distance, I saw BD's color guard warming up.
Oh, yeah.
And they were alone.
Oh my
just
God.
like with like a spotlight on them, all black, like just
in the
alone,
blacks,
just
yeah.
like doing their little whatever they're doing. And they looked so cool. And I was like, oh, who is that? They look cool. Who is that? It was
Yeah.
BD.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, they look cool. And then at the Bills Stadium in New York,
Yeah.
we were pushing on towards the field. We were pushing towards the stadium. And I saw their front ensemble warming up. They were like playing the closer. And I saw them kind of off in the distance playing the closer. And they looked so cool.
Yeah.
The music was beautiful. Like I loved that pit book.
Just got
like,
good vibes.
particularly that closer. It just looked so cool. And it was
Yeah.
kind of in that moment where I was like, like I would love to be there.
Yeah.
And then, so that was kind of that. And then 2018, there's a whole plethora of things. I didn't march drum corps in 2018. I did Mystique, but there was like a whole series of events that led to me not marching in 18. So I just took the summer off in 18. And then 2019 came around. I was in my third year at Mystique. A lot of that group was getting ready to like go back and do Bluecoats, and like we had some Cavalier people in that group, and like everybody was kind of doing their thing. And I wanted to march drum corps again. And I was like, I don't really want to go back to Bluecoats, but I don't know. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So there was a point in time in 19 where I was planning on going back to Bluecoats just because my friends were doing it again that were still there. And like the guy that I was playing marimba next to with at Mystique, he was the center marimba, Kyle, at Bluecoats. So we were talking about it, and he was trying to get me to go back. And I was like, you know what? Like, I would be a vet. Like, I know the staff. I know the people. Like, I guess I'll just go back. But then I was on one of my I would drive from Alabama up to Nashville to do Mystique. And one of the car rides up there, I was just like thinking, it was like December, November time. I was just driving up, and I was thinking, like, if I go back to Bluecoats, I feel like I'm kind of like settling for like, just because it's just like comfortable going back there. I was like, why not try to do Blue Devils? Like,
Interesting. Yeah, that's
I was
cool.
like, why not just try? And so
Yeah.
and the cutoff for auditions was like that weekend or something.
Like, yeah.
And so I was like, let me just do it. Like, so I sent a video audition to Blue Devils. Like, one of the last, I remember emailing Brian Dinkle, the front ensemble coordinator at Blue Devils. I think the cutoff like happened or something, but I remember emailing him and being like, hey, like, I'm Grayton. Like, we had kind of talked because I forgot about this. I was maybe going to fill a hole at Blue Devils in 2018.
Oh.
Did I tell you about this?
Oh my God.
There
that would
was
have been so
that,
fun.
I got reached out to fill a vibraphone spot at BD in 2018, but they ended up, and I like sent a video for it, and they ended up giving it to someone else, Whitney, who's like incredible legend. So I'd kind of known Brian at this point, just like we have known of each other. But I emailed Brian and I was like, hey, is it like too late for me to audition? Like, can I send a video? And he was like, yeah, send a video. So I sent a video and got a call back. And I was like,
Here we go.
oh,
Yep.
okay. Like, because I didn't know what to expect, because like
Yeah.
this is my third year at Mystique, and like,
Yeah.
you know, I was pretty like established in the activity at this point with like my friends and my circle of people like in Nashville and like on the East Coast side of things. But I didn't know anybody like West Coast, like West Coast drum corps band, like didn't know anybody. So like I didn't know what to expect. But then I sent a video and I was like, let's see what happens. Because like that was all I did. I didn't audition for any other group. And I was like, I guess this is like all or nothing. But I sent a video and I got a call back and I was like, okay. So I went to the camp and got a contract, and that was it. And did that year at Blue Devils in 2019. And it was unbelievable and so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, it was just great. And yeah, I just stuck with BD since then. So that was kind of it for me. Like that kind of like led me to BD, and doing BD after Mystique was interesting in a lot of ways, because Mystique is very much I guess like kind of like stereotypes, I guess, for a lack of better words, like East Coast approach versus West Coast approach to band.
Yeah.
Like that was like proven true to me.
Yeah, really?
Like, like doing Mystique was very like intense and very like passionate, I guess. Like very intense and very hard a lot of the times. Like staff was very intense. Those members were very intense and so serious about Mystique and like about band. And, you know, I thank goodness 2017 was my first year, because like if they had told me to shave my head in like 2019 or 2020, I don't know if I would have.
Oh God, you shaved your head.
I did in fact shave my head.
You guys don't know.
I don't know
watch
if I would.
2017 MCM.
Yeah, go watch
and you will see
2017
Grayton's
Mystique. You'll see my bald, and I'm talking bald, like
skin, like
razor to the scalp. Like,
you do it?
It was bad.
Would you shave your head for band?
No. I wouldn't. I've talked to Grayton about this. I was like, I could not.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
You had girls in that group shaving their head.
Oh yeah, girl. Yeah, I shaved my friend Sarah's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's crazy.
It was insane. But going back to what I was saying, East Coast, particularly Mystique, I loved it. I'm so grateful for my time at Mystique. Like some of the closest friends I still have to this day are from Mystique. I have so much respect for everyone that comes through there. And I love the staff. Some of those staff members are still some of my closest friends. But then going to Blue Devils, it was just like, just such a sigh of like, it was just like a calm at BD.
Yeah.
That it was so different from Mystique, so different from Bluecoats. Like, it was just so chill. And obviously everyone took it very seriously. Yeah. But not like in a different way.
Yeah.
They just took it seriously in a different way. Like it was more so like, we know that we are just like excellent and we are just going to execute, and that's it. Like whatever happens, happens. But like, we know we're going to be great. Like it's a Mystique. There was that same mentality. Hello? Mentality. It was that same sort of mentality, but it was like it was very extreme.
There was just like a pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, some good ways, like it definitely paid off in years in like 17, but I definitely think it was like sort of toxic some years. But after doing BD and just like seeing how easy and just how good and like just seeing how easy it can be.
I just trusted. Like, there was like a trust that I had.
I had no worry. I had so much trust in the staff, so much trust in the people around me. And it felt like the staff trusted us so much to just kind of like do our thing.
Do
and
what
like,
we needed to do.
It was like, hey, like we're tired today. Like, let's go rest.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we're tired today. Get up and work hard. Like
we're behind. We need to catch up.
Yeah,
I think that's just like, and so you guys came from like an East Coast side of things.
Yeah.
I never came from that. And so I was always a West Coast guy. I was always a Blue Devils guy. I always knew that's what I wanted to do. And so when I came to Blue Devils, I don't really have necessarily like the comparison, but I do think that from all the people I know that march, like I know people that march Cadets and Crown, that came to BD, and it really is a level of understanding and professionalism that the staff kind of bestows upon the members to say, we trust you to like handle this level of, you know, flexibility and freedom to still be great. And I think other groups will like force that out of them and say, we don't trust you to take this responsibly. And so then they will beat them into the ground to make sure that doesn't happen.
And it's a risk that the
For
staff
sure.
takes.
Yeah. And Blue Devils is able to afford to do that because of like the talent of the members, and like the age of the members is typically a much older and experienced group.
And so I just put out the video about like how long the Blue Devils been at the top, and like people ask, some of the comments I've been saying is like, so then you're saying they do this, so how do they do it? I think one of the main things is that because Blue Devils has had such a long history of consistent success, you show up as a rookie and you see all of these old vets around you, and you immediately just fall in line. And you just do what they do.
It's a legacy.
And they've created the culture of like, hey, this is how we do it here. You are mature and you're responsible and you do your job, and you also can relax and you can also do these things. And so like that is like the level I think that is when you have that kind of maturity, that really intense maturity that is just like ingrained into the members of the core, like then you don't have the unreliability of like a core that's just finally made it to the top by beating themselves to death. It's like that's so hit or miss sometimes. You can't get that kind of result when you're just like totally beating it out of you constantly. So I think that is a big thing that has led to the Blue Devils success. Now, that being said, I think post-COVID, the Blue Devils has turned into a different vibe for sure, and you can probably attest to that. But I do think that, you know, times are changing post-COVID in general. Like we teach, I teach kids. I've taught kids before COVID, and I've taught kids after. And it's certainly a different vibe altogether. And so I think things are going to be changing for sure. And the consistent vibe that Blue Devils had for so long, it was kind of wiped away a little bit. And they had to restart from like 13 vets in 2022 for the Blue Devils or something crazy, like a super small number of vets.
It was basically just like a handful of us in the front ensemble were vets. Yeah. Like the front ensemble had the most vets in 2022.
Like 6 in the horn line?
No,
6 in the horn line.
6 in the horn line.
And then in the front ensemble, it was like, I don't even know. I don't want to say names because I don't want to forget anybody. But like it was like not that many. Yeah. But like most of the vets are in the front ensemble. And the front ensemble is already like the smallest section, you know. So, but I mean, and it's definitely different. Like WGI to DCI. Like DCI has a little bit more time, I think. Like the whole season to like be able to afford to rest, and like that was part of the reason that we felt that pressure at like Mystique particularly was just because like we were rehearsing for like a day and a half essentially, like each weekend, and that's it. So we don't really have time to like chill, but that basically going back, that was like what the main thing I noticed, like doing Mystique, like 3 years of Mystique, doing Blue Devils, seeing how like chill and amazing it was, and then going back to Mystique, I was like, oh, I'm like tired. Like doing these weekends at Mystique, and it's more so just like a me thing, I was also like deep into it at that point, and I was just getting tired in general. But it was just interesting. Like Blue Devils was so refreshing to me. Like, and then having COVID happen, and taking that time off, and then being able to go back in 22 and like that be my last thing. That was like, it was like amazing, so much fun. That was like some of my best friends I marched with. Like we had been talking for years about being a Blue Devils together, and then we were like me, Marlon, and Ben, like in the Center 3 Marimbas. Like we've been talking about being at BD together for years at that point. Really and then it happened. And it was so much fun. Like I'm so glad I got to experience that. But yeah, it was great. I love it.
Well, thanks for reminiscing back on 17 especially, and then kind of how it came back to now. But guys, thanks for watching. We have so many more things that we could literally go on for hours, but my camera cannot take it. So in the editing time to do it, so of course we'll be back. We'll try to do it like once a week, just sit down and talk. So if there are things that you guys have questions about or comments about, like some things you want us to elaborate more on, or anything you're curious about, leave it in the comments. We read the comments, we see them. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys like the podcast. We're back to the podcast now. It's been
podcast.
So
I love to podcast.
So anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Cool.
Comment below your favorite color.
Now there's gonna be a bunch of comments of just I like red.
I want to know.
Pink.